So tonight we decided we're going to learn the Haggadah Shel Pesach. I want to give a little bit of an introduction. I hope that everybody will have a Haggadah in front of them. If not, I will read from the Haggadah in case somebody is not particularly prepared. But there are many Haggadahs available. If anybody has a Haggadah that's interesting, you want to speak up, I believe that we have the technology to do so. So first of all, why is it called the Seder? So one of the most important answers, I think, is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a Seder in his world. There's a famous story with one of the great Bali Musar, the Alta from Kelm, that he went to visit his son who was learning in the mirror. And it's one of those stories that probably would not get replicated in our days because fathers are different, sons are different. But he went to find out how his son is doing. And his son was Grad in Seder learning. So he said, okay, let me go to the dorm. I'll take a look at his room. Checked his room. He checked the bed. He checked his cubbies. He checked his forum. Everything looked in order. He said, oh, Baruch Hashem, Hakol B'Seder. That's how we say today. He said probably, Alles is good, Alles is B'Seder. If everything was in order, then he went home. That's a little bit of a Kalta Litvak sounding thing. He didn't even wait a couple of minutes to go say hello to his son because he found out what he wanted to find out. And what we have to know is that the Seder is a proof, and that's why it's one of the only places where we have a Seder Hadvarim. Kadesh, Ruchatz, Karpas, Yachatz, and we'll go over the Simonim of the Seder in Mitzvah Hashem in a moment. But the idea is to tell us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did everything with a Seder. Now, when we talk about this, we have to understand that the main kashas, I made a bracha before, Rabbi, so I'm sorry I can't answer Amen, but I'm just going to take a drink. That the main kasha, of course, is why did we have to go down to Mitzrayim to begin with? Why did we have to suffer the tremendous pain and anguish and tsar of being in Mitzrayim? And there's a million answers. In fact, there's a Seder Ha'aruch Sefer. It's in 3 volumes. The middle volume of the set gives reasons for various things. The other 2 are mostly halacha, but the middle one gives reasons. And one of the reasons why we went down to Mitzrayim was to learn how to become avodim to Hashem. So first we become avdei paro, and we learned a very bitter lesson. Of course, the Mefarshim say that if, in fact, we had Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach not done the things that got us down to Mitzrayim, for instance, the sale of Yosef and other Averus, then we wouldn't have had to go down to Mitzrayim. We would have learned how to be an Eved Hashem from Hashem. But unfortunately, this way we learned it the hard way, which was to learn how to be an Eved from being Avdei Paro. So let's go through a little bit of the Seder, the order of the Seder, because that gives us an overview of the whole Seder. And by the way, it also gives us an overview of a good deal of Hashkafa during Pesach and beyond. So Kadesh means that we should sanctify the day with saying Kiddush, and Ruchatz means to wash our hands before Karpas. Now, there's a famous kasha, of course, why we wash our hands for Karpas. The Taz was the first one that asked this kasha. The Taz in Arachaim Simon Tafai and Gimel Seiv Vav asked the kasha, why do we wash our hands for Karpas? We don't do that a whole year. In other words, this is washing our hands for tibul, for dipping a vegetable. We never wash our hands for that. We have dips all year, even though we say in the Fear Kashas, which we're not going to get to tonight in Mirz Hashem, we'll get to it hopefully next week, Mirz Hashem, that one of the 4 questions, one of the 4 Kashas is, Halai La'azeh, but we use ketchup and we use mustard and we dip into all sorts of things. We do have dips, which we'll talk about Mirz Hashem next week. We never wash our hands. So why do we wash our hands this night of Pesach? So one of the answers is that tonight we're doing, tonight, when we say tonight, the night of Pesach, we're doing things, Be'ezer Hashem Yisbarach, out of Simcha. And I'll just give you a little bit of a heads up. In this week's Yated Neman, which I was able to write under somewhat difficult conditions, the conditions of being quarantined, couldn't go out and get any Svarim or anything, but I did write an article, and one of the parts of the article was that it's brought in many, many Svarim HaKadoshim, both the Hasidic Svarim and the Sifrei Musar, that what Elul is to Tishrei, Elul is the Hagdama to Tishrei, so actually Adar is the Hagdama to Nisan. What is the essence of Adar? Is Simcha. What is the essence of Nisan? It's doing various mitzvahs. So it teaches us that we have to reach the madrega of Simcha, if there's Hashem Simcha, and then we can do things properly. So that's why we start off with Kadesh Rachatz. So we'll start off with this. Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin says in his Haggadah, it's 2 volumes, 2 fat volumes, that say the following, that Kadesh Rachatz seems to be out of order. The whole point of this night is the order, Seder, and it's out of order. What's the pshat? Because there's a pasuk in Yeshaya that says, Rachatzu hizaku. First comes Sur Merah, wash away the sins, and then you can be hizaku, you can be on a higher madrega of zechus. But on Pesach night, it sounds like we do the opposite. Kadesh, first we Kadesh ourselves, and then Rechatz, and then we wash away the sins. That's the opposite. That sounds like instead of Sur Merah, I say Toiv, and then Sur Merah. So the answer is yes, it is. Because the night of Pesach, we're able to do something very special. What we're able to do is, instead of doing tshuva properly, we weren't ready for that in Mitzrayim. On the night of Pesach, we're really replicating Yetzias Mitzrayim. So what happened 3,300 something years ago? We were in Memtesh Shari Tuma, Shakua, we were sunken. We were like a quicksand. We were falling, and falling very rapidly. Kadosh Baruch Hu stopped it at the last moment. We'll discuss that a little bit later on, Belin Edit tonight. And Kadosh Baruch Hu whisked us out of Mitzrayim. That's one of the reasons for the fact that we go so fast. Everything is the zrizus of leaving Mitzrayim. As a matter of fact, the Rambam in his Haggadah starts off, Behilu Yotzonu Mitzrayim. We left Mitzrayim in a haste, in a rush. Why does the Rambam use this, the first couple of words? I think Lanias Daiti, because the Rambam wanted to remind us that we were in such a low state that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to get us out of there, because Chas v'Sholom, if we had sunken any lower, even HaKadosh Baruch Hu would not have taken us. Some people say could not. There's no such thing as could not by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have, so to speak, given up on us. Chas v'Chalis, HaKadosh Baruch Hu would never give up on us. So therefore, we learn that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did the great chesed to us of taking us out of Mitzrayim and letting us shoot all the way up very rapidly through the Memtesh Shari Tumah and through the 49 levels of Kedusha, so that we were ready, Emir Hashem, to be Makabel Esatayra. And that answers also one of the very interesting questions by the Tzvi Shel Pesach, by Oz Yashir. So Chazal tells the very famous Chazal, Rosa Shivchal Ayom Asher Loiro Yecheskel Ben Buzi, that even the tiniest little shivcha, and we're going to find it, Mirz Hashem, in the Gemara, in Gemara that we're going to be learning in Shabbos next day or two, Mirz Hashem, that a shivcha is really somebody that's not quite Jewish, but she's not a goy anymore either. The Gemara calls it Yotza Michlal Akum V'Lechlal Yisrael Loiba. So she has a little bit of kedusha, but not a lot. And even a man who's an Evet Kanani has the same kedusha as a woman. So what happened? She had a revelation. She had a moment, sometimes they call it today, an epiphany, and she saw all sorts of nevuah, even what Yecheskel Ben Buzi couldn't see. So what happened to all those shivchas? So the answer is that something that comes too easily, something that comes very rapidly, it doesn't last. And that's why we say Kadesh Rachatz. We have to do all these things. And when we go through Kadesh Rachatz, Karpas Yachatz, Magid Rachzo, Maitzimatzo, Morah Koirech, Shulchan Aruch, Tzafun, Barech, Hallel, and then Nirtza, we're going through a process. The process is to remove ourselves from the Memtesh Shari Tumah. So how come again we say Kaddish first and then Rechatz? That's the magic and the difference between Pesach, which is Adar going into Nisan, and Elul going into Tishrei. By Elul going into Tishrei, we start with nothing. And we work our way up, of course, just like Pesach. But on the other hand, we have to come into the Yom Noraim with a certain number of Zechusim. But on Pesach, it's not true. On Pesach, it's completely different. We start off with Kaddish right away, even though we have no Zechusim. We just left, maybe we left Mem Teshrei Tumah, maybe we're still carrying them with us. But because we are so inspired by the Kedusha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu grants us, that's called Isarusa de La'ela. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us something for free. It's really a freebie. And then from there, we go to Orachatz. And what about the next step? Karpas. For karpas, we eat a vegetable dipped in salt water. And here, as the Taz pointed out to us, we're on an extremely high madrega. What is that madrega? The madrega is washing al taras hakodesh to eat chulin b'tahara. Now, most people who are kohanim, they eat on the level of kohanim. The Leviim eat on the level of Leviim. But Yisraelim don't have to eat b'kedusha at all. You just have to wash your hands. But you don't have to eat anything particularly b'kedusha. So over here, every single yid at the Seder is washing for karpas, which is just a vegetable dipped in salt water, but it is elevated to the point where we're eating chulin b'tahara. Now, what this means is that every one of us becomes an honorary kohen. It goes even higher than that. Many of the Mepharshim learn that at the Seder, why do we wear a kittel? The kittel is a white garment. That's what the Kohen Gadol wears lifnai v'lifnim, and only on Yom Kippur when he goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the holiest place on earth. So what does that mean to us? We're sitting at the Seder, and this is, by the way, a famous shaila, unfortunately, negeya very often to people that are avelim during the year, and then Pesach comes along, do they wear a kittel or not? So it depends. If the kittel is a beged shel mesim, so they're already in that status. They're thinking about mesa. They don't really have to wear a kittel. That's what some poskim hold, and they shouldn't wear a kittel. And on the other hand, the Gra holds that if a kittel is indeed a beged shel mesim, so nobody should wear it because it's antithetical. It's the opposite of the simcha sachag, of the simcha of the moment of the Seder. So then what do? So we do wear a kittel, but it's a beged yom tov, and it's a beged of absolute purity, because although we haven't reached it very, very perfectly, but we're on our way. And that's really the Simani HaSeder, which were made up by Tanoim. Some say it's by the Gaonim, but it seems it's even earlier by the Tanoim, not even the Gemara, but before the time of the Gemara. So that's Karpas. Now, Yachatz, we break the middle.
Why doesn't a chassan wear a kittel?
Oh, so a chassan.
By the way, I hope the Rav is not going to get used to muting us. I'm getting worried.
Well, it's not just muting. I'll tell you, I have a button that completely blows you away. So I'm not sure what's going to happen afterwards. But no, it's okay. Rabbi, I'm very pleased that somebody is there. Sometimes I don't even know if anybody's there. So I'm glad to hear you. And I'm going to answer your question. So the chassan, the fact that the chassan does not wear a kittel, first of all, it's a big machlokes. It's a machlokes totally in this thing. So for instance, according to the Gra, if I'm not mistaken, the minhagi Gra is and are that a chassan does wear a kittel because he doesn't hold that it's a beged mace. He holds that it's a beged of purity. No, a chassan is supposed to be pure. Under the chuppah, farkeret, he gets rid of all of his averis, and he just profit his own Yom Kippur, and he's able to go to the Seder that year, pretty much in a higher state than anybody else. So farkeret, he does wear a kittel. But according to those that hold that it's a beged mason, and by the way, why is it a beged mason? Because if a person has so many things on the table, he's supposed to have all of his finery, so he's going to get a little bit, complacent. He's going to get a little bit balgaivadik, and gaiva is a very bad thing. As a matter of fact, it's also antithetical to chametz, to matzah rather. Chametz is the Yetzer Hara. It's puffed up, blown up, big shadi, arrogant. And a matzah is a very, very humble little thing. A matzah represents the simplicity of only a little bit of water and flour, not even any yeast that will pump it up. That's the basic answer. Akut kasha. So let's go back to Yachas. So why do we break the matzahs? There's a lot of pshatim, obviously, that can be said. But we're just going to say one tonight, Mitzvah Hashem, what we're going to do every week. Hopefully the Mondays, I think most Mondays we'll be able to learn, and especially now we're all in our house, or in our homes. We're learning Bais Hashem Yisbarach wherever we are, so we don't have to worry about being someplace else. The way the world is going, we can't be anyplace else. So this is the best place to be, learning Torah. So we break the middle matzah. So the breakage of the matzah, according to many Rishonim, Achronim, if I'm not mistaken, Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin has a couple of pages on this. I'm about to dig out my Sifrei Pesach. We just found out that we're probably not going to any hotel. There is no hotel, so we're probably going to be home as the Hashem Yisbarach. So I got to dig out all my svarim. So one of the big pshatim about Yachatz is that there's a certain duality to Pesach. And let's talk about it a little bit right now, because we're going to get up to Maitzi Matzah in a minute. So what does Matzah represent? Does Matzah represent Kehillas, or does it represent Avdus? So the truth is, it's really both. The Briskers say that it's Elav El Divlikim Chaim. Now, I know I skipped a little bit, but I want to come back to Yachatz, because Yachatz is also about the Matzah. We split the middle Matzah, we break it. Why? Because it's this duality. The Matzah represents Avdus, and it represents Kehillas simultaneously. Why? Because a person, as we said before, leaves Paroi. We're not avodim to Paro anymore, but we go right from being Avdei Paro to Avdei avodim LaHashem, Avodasa Yisbarach, to be avodim to Hashem. So this Kehillas, but what kind of Kehillas? Elocha ben Chorn l'misha isik b'Torah. We have an Adon, we have a master. It's not Paro, of course. It's the Rabbi Shalom. So we break that matzah so that we remind ourselves of Brisker Vart that there's two dinim, there's two aspects to matzah, both Avdus and Kehillas. Now I'm just running through it tonight. Then we talk about Magid. Now Magid, if you don't mind, I'm going to say something over that I've said before in shul, but we're not in shul. I made a bracha already, but I can say l'chaim. So, by the way, this is a lot easier, even if you interrupt me, because I was on a conference call today, just like the last couple of days, with about 40 rabbis and Rosh Yeshivas. So if you think that it's hard, speaking with a couple of people on the line, imagine 40 rabbis talking at the same time. So, this is easy stuff, Rabbi say. So anyway, Magid is the story of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. So at this point, we start to tell the story. And Magid, of course, brings in the Arba Banim, and there's a lot we're going to discuss in Mir Hashem over the next couple of days. Maybe I'll throw in a couple more shiurim, not just Mondays. We'll see. If you'd like it, let me know. This is usually an 8:15 shiur. We could make it a little bit more regular, and we'll learn a little bit deeper the Haggadah, the Halacha, the Haggadah, and maybe a little bit of Pnimius as well. So we'll talk about today. I'm just going over really the Simani Haseder. That's probably all we're going to do tonight. We usually go till 9 o'clock. I'm going to try to finish this up before 9 o'clock. So what is Magid? So here is a little bit I'm going to give you from my Rabbi, Rafut Zatzal, based upon a Maral. It says in the beginning of Shemais, Vayi bayom Morah b'mohem, vayomas Melech Mitzrayim. So when Melech Mitzrayim died, so a lot of people thought, things are going to get better. Now, I don't want to scare anybody, but right now with this virus, all the Chalim should have a refuah shalema, everybody's davening it should get better. The doctors just told us, we had this long phone conference, that it's going to get worse before it gets better. So that's really what happened in Mitzrayim. It did get worse before it got better. So we thought, this get bad, Paro, Stalin died, or Hitler and Machshemam died, and now things are going to get better. All of a sudden it got worse. So what happened? It seems like there was a worse Paro. But that wasn't what it was really all about. Kadosh Baruch Hu did us a taiva. What was the taiva? We were in Mem Tashari Tumah, and if we were going to, we weren't really roy to get out. So Kadosh Baruch Hu upped the ante. What does that mean? He made the shibud much worse, so we could get out in 210. That was Redu. Redu is Begamatria 210 instead of 400. But what do you do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Yodaya Teda by the Brisbane Absorim in Parshas Lech Lecha, Ki ger Yizarach Beretz Le'Elohim V'Avodim V'Yinoisam Arba Me'Shan. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't lie. So the Teretz says that's 400 years at a certain level of suffering. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu upped the suffering, or made it worse, so that we could get out after 210. So when Moshe Rabbeinu came to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and he said, Rabbi Shalom, what's going on over here? You told me, go tell them we're getting out of Mitzrayim. Not only we didn't get out, but the shibud got worse. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, trust me. So because Moshe Rabbeinu, of course he trusted Hashem, Chas Hashem to say that he didn't, but somehow the level of the way that Moshe Rabbeinu asked the kasha is, Lama hariyos lama zeh, so he had to do tshuva. So what happened over there was like this. When Moshe Rabbeinu finally sang the Shira, so it says, Me'oz bosi al paroi, so that was his Avera. So he said to Hashem, Me'oz bosi al paroi. So what was the antidote? Oz Yashim Moshe. How's it an antidote? That's what the Medrash says. So all the Mefarshim say kimat pe'echad unanimously that Oz was an antidote to Me'oz. Why? Because Teretz says Me'oz means from the time. From what time? You have to look at more than one moment in time. You have to look at the future. You have to look at the large picture. And smart people do that. They look at the large picture. So what happened? So it got worse. And then we got out, and then we went to the midbar. We would have gone right into Mitzrayim, right into Eretz Yisrael, if not for the Egel, etc., etc. But L'maisa, Hakadosh Baruch Hu got us out of Mitzrayim. So that's Magid. Magid is that we start Maschul b'gnus or Masayim b'shevach. We start, and there's two types of gnus. One is gnus means something that's negative, something that's pejorative. And then we get better. That's the whole structure of the Haggadah. So in the Gemara in Psachim, in Arvei Psachim, the famous parak, the last parak in Psachim, there's two types of Maschul b'gnus and Masayim b'shevach. So Machlekes Rav and Shmuel, some say by Rava, whatever it is, Machlekes two Amoraim. So what is the machlekes? Some say it's physical. That first maschul bignus we're avodim, and then we became free. And then the other one is that that's the spiritual. And the truth is, almost all the Rishonim say they're both correct. It's not like there was one shibud. There was a physical bondage and there was a spiritual bondage. There was a physical release, a redemption, and there was a spiritual redemption. And we're celebrating both of them. That takes me back to Yachatz for a second. Another pshat why we split the matzah is so that we'll remember there were two golios and two geulas. There was a golus physical, there was a golus, and there's a geula spiritual. There was a golus spiritual, and there was a galus. I'm sorry, I didn't say it correctly. There was a galus that was physical, and the geula that was physical, and then there was the same thing spiritual. So that's the yachatz. So now, what are we saying in Magid? We start off with the bid. Now, what's the pshat bid? Let's take a look at that. The very interesting machlok is who's Aviseinu. Now, who is Aviseinu? Who from our Avos were Oivdei Avodah Zarah? It can't be Yitzchak. Yitzchak had two very frum parents. It can't be Yaakov. Yaakov Shalimta. Yaakov was perfect, right? Yaakov also had two very, very fine parents. So who in the world are we talking about? So the answer must be Avram Avinu. When did Avram Avinu ever serve idols? So the teretz is, the Rambam says, if you look at the beginning of Hilchos Avodah Zarah, so when he tells the story of Avram Avinu as a child, he says, V'hu, you can look it up, first parak, first halacha, in Hilchos Avodah Zarah, V'hu avad imahem. He served Avodah Zarah with his father and with others. But then he saw the light, he was 3 years old, the Rabbi disagrees a little bit with the Rambam, but whatever it is, at 3 years old, he decided he's going to become, of course, the first believer in monotheism in Hashem. So now, so now when we say so Aviseinu is not Terach. Nobody ever said Terach Avinu. What I just said is the brisker of. A Lubavitcher fellow once told me that Lubavitcher Rebbe said the exact opposite. He said you can't say that Aviseinu refers to any of the others. Lubavitcher Rebbe apparently said it must be Terach. But I'm going tonight with the brisker of. The brisker of said, and when we say Magid, so we have to say that. Why? Because every Yid, I'm saying a little bit my own over here before I come back to my Rebbe. So every Yid, we're all, let's say, for instance, the first Bais HaMikdash was destroyed because of Gilurayis and Shvichas Dam and Avodah Zarah. And the second one was because of Lashon Hara. So many of us will be invited to a little bit of Lashon Hara, but most of us say, first Bais HaMikdash, I was never that bad. But there are nuances of Shvichas Damim and Avodah Zarah and Gilui Arayos that we are either. There's very, very personal type of things by each one. I'll give you one example that we can talk about it at least without being too embarrassed. And that is, speaking of embarrassment, let's say we embarrass somebody. So the Gemara says, so it's like Shvichas Dam, we killed him. So, because the blood rushes from his face, that's called Shvichas Dam. We took away some of his blood. He turns white, turns red. So what's the pshat? We were over. And we are over these things. So we were over Avodah Zarah also. What's the Avodah Zarah? Sometimes we worship money. Sometimes we worship a person that we become a little bit obsessed by, and we think that this, guy or this world leader or this sports figure or a Hollywood figure is so great. Then we find out that they're not. But for a little while, it was a little bit like worship. So that's what it means that we say We shouldn't get complacent. That's the point. To say, oh, those bad Jews 3,300 years ago, we would have never done that. It's not true. We might have done even worse. So then HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out despite the fact that we were on such a low level. So that's Magid. That just gives us a little bit of an overview of Magid. But now I just want to go back to what my Rebbe said. So why do we have so many words? That's my Rebbe's kasha. Why do we have so many words? Really Maral, but he explains the Maral. If you think about it, first of all, there's Haggadah, right? We say the Haggadah and we tell the story. But then there's also Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim. Then Va'amartem Zevach Pesach, we say something. And then not only that, but what's the ultimate is the shiur. The shiur is also talking. It's singing, but it's words. And there's many, many more. So my Rebbe says like this, very simple pshat. On the pasuk Vaye'onchu, when we said before, Vaye'onchu, they groaned and they sighed. So the very famous Zohar on that says that the Shechina was in Gol. I'm sorry, not the Shechina, I apologize. Shechina is in Golus with us, but the Dibur was in Golus. It doesn't explain. The Zohar doesn't explain. So before the Zohar explain, what does that mean? The voice was in Golus. So they explain like this. There's a pasuk in the beginning of Bereshis that says, "Vayihi ha'adam lenefesh chaya." Adam became a speaking creature. I don't know. How do we know that means a speaking creature? Because the Targum says, Targum Onkelos, not even the Yanis Ben Uziel, l'ruach mamalala, a speaking creature. So we see that the essence of man is a speaking creature. So now what happened to us by Yitzias Mitzrayim? So we became a new nation. Vayihi sham l'goy. That's what we're going to say in the Haggadah, Me'ez Hashem. We became a new nation. So when we became a new nation, everything had to start from scratch. So for instance, let's talk about this. This is speech. We had a new mode of speech. And when we have a new mode of speech, first you start with no speech. That is silence, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. And then groan. A groan is no words. So it says in that pasuk, "Vaye'onchu vayizaku v'atal shavasam el Elokim en avodah," and then it goes on. So there were different madrigas. I won't go through all of them right now. Maybe one of these nights we'll do it. But we went through all these things. So that's Magid. Magid is not the highest. The highest is Shira, which we'll get to later on. Now, Rachza is not Urachatz. So what's the difference between Urachatz and Rachza? They sound like they're the same thing, right? Urachatz is wash your hands before eating karpas. So Rachza, we say wash your hands. So every little kid knows that Rachza is with a bracha. When a little kid says it says it in Yiddish. When I was learning in Yiddish, Urachatz, wash the hand tuna bracha. And Rachza means wash the hand mit a bracha. Okay, fine. But why isn't the word should be the same word? The bracha doesn't change the fact that we wash our hands exactly the same way. So teretz is, one of the terutzim is, that after Magid, it's a different washing. And I want to explain what this means for a second. There's a tefillin shel Rashi, there's tefillin shel Rabbeinu Tam. We have these days, it became much more popular to wear a tefillin shel Rabbeinu Tam. When I was a kid, nobody wore it except maybe the Rav of the shul or some Rebbe. Today, a lot of people, Baruch Hashem, wear it. So we have to know what's in it. So Rashi's tefillin is Shema v'Hayim Shemaya, and Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin roughly is V'Hayim Shemaya Shema. Some other differences as well. So Shema is Kabbalah's oil HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kabbalah's oil Malchus Shemayim, and Vayim Shemai is Kabbalah's oil mitzvahs. So it makes sense. First you have to believe that there's a God, and then you can do what he wants. So Rabbeinu Tam doesn't seem to make sense, right? He starts with Vayim Shemaya. That means I can be Makabal all mitzvahs before you Makabal the oil of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So if I'm not mistaken, I heard this from a number of different Gedolim, they all say the same thing. Really, nobody wears just Rabbeinu Tam's film. Everybody wears Rashi's film. And then you put on Rabbeinu Tam's film. So it works like this. First, you Makabal Ol Malchus Shemayim, Shema. Then you say Vayim Shemaya, you're going to do the mitzvahs. But now you go back, it's a new Kabbalah Ol Malchus Shemayim, because now you're on a higher madrega. That's what Rachza. It's my own shot for what it's worth. Rachza means that we don't wash our hands like we washed our hands before. Before we washed maybe for cleanliness. Before maybe we washed without a bracha. We weren't on such a high madregas to say a bracha. But now we're saying a bracha, the washing of hands. Why? Because we're elevating our hands. We're going to pick up our hands in Mir Hashem, and we'll talk about when we pick up our hands. But Heilig Yidden used to pick up their hands always. It says in Shulchan Aruch when they watch Natil Sedayim. Why? Because it says, pick up your hands. A lot of people say it also. Some people hold it's a hefsek, but many Chassidish Yidden say they don't say Su'u Yedechem Kodesh. They say Se'i Yedechem Kodesh. Right? It's an under the boat. But whatever it means that you lift up your hands. So that's the second rachta. Now then we go to Maitzi Matzah. Now Maitzi Matzah, it's interesting that some list Maitzi and Matzah as two different of the Simonei HaSeder. Why? Because it really is. Because we're making two brachas. First of all, Hamaitzi Lechem Min Haaretz, and Asher Kedushanim Zoysev V'Tzivana Al Achilas Matzah. So let's just remind ourselves what these two brachas are. One bracha is Maitzi. That's the first bracha is a birchas hanenin. We're thanking Hashem because we're eating. The second bracha is Asher Kedushanim Zoysev V'Tzivana Al Achilas Matzah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the mitzvah of matzah, and He sanctified us. He made us holy to do the mitzvah. So now, why are these two different things? We're only eating one kazais. We're actually eating two kazaisim, but we're eating, it's one ma'aseh achila. So the Torah says it mixes and matches. Maitzi represents that we should eat and we should have anoah and we should elevate that. Matzah, the second one is, matzah means that we should do mitzvahs with a lot of kedusha. Now I want to jump to Morah for a second, because in Morah we don't make a birchas hanenin because we don't really have anoah. Now then it says, according to those that eat lettuce, could be, even the Mashal Rabbi and Kotler Zatzal held that you can eat regular lettuce. Not romaine, but just iceberg lettuce, because he held that that's the best Morah. It's what's called in the Gemara chasa. If you take a look at the Shulchan Aruch from the Gemara in Pesachim, there's a whole bunch of options for Morah. So one of them is called chasa, which seems to be iceberg lettuce. It's not. I don't even know if they had romaine lettuce in time of Chazal. It's a big machlokes. But whatever it is, it's lettuce. So Rabbi Kotler held that it's the ideal Morah. Why? Because it's in the beginning it's sweet, and then it turns bitter. So really, what was that? So it says, in the Torah says that they started off, Paro said, oh, hey, Jews, would you like to help me? And we said, yeah, of course. We were very nationalistic. We were very patriotic. And then it became very, very bitter. So since it started off sweet and then it became bitter, so that's not any romaine lettuce. Romaine lettuce is probably bitter right away. But Rabbi Kotler, that's the best representation of what actually happened in Mitzrayim. So what is Morah? So we make a bracha, and we say that Asher Kedushanim Zoysev Al Achilas Morah. So there's a very famous kasha over here. Really, the Morah came first before the matzah. Remember, before we asked the Shaila, what exactly does the matzah represent? But we said at first, at least it represents in part not just bondage, not just avdus, but the geula. So how come after matzah we say Morah? It should have been like this: Morah vayimorah was chayayim. The Morah was bitter, and then Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out. So we have something that represents geula, and we'll see a lot of things that represent geula. So let's say matzah represents both, but Morah for sure only represents the bitterness. So why didn't that come first? So over here also, there's a very beautiful pshat. The Aruch HaShulchan says it. That's the Rav of Navardik and a few others that say that the emphasis, it's hard to understand how we make a bracha on Morah, period. Morah is painful. Morah is suffering. So let's make the kasha even worse. Let's deepen the kasha. There are many svarim, mamish halacha svarim, but also svarim like the Taimim and Hagim that talk about Minhag Yisrael. They say that Gedal used to kiss the matzah, then they used to kiss the Morah. So male the matzah we understand. Gevaldik, wonderful matzah got us out of Mitzrayim. Morah is only bad. So the Torah says, first of all, what did we say before? That the Morah got us out early, right? Because it was so bad that we suffered, and then the suffering got us out. In Redu, we didn't have to wait till 400. Okay, fine. But then there's another aspect of it. We all have a little bit of Morah in our lives, and we all have, hopefully, maybe this should help, a lot of matzah in our lives. Matzah over here representing the good. So over here, after we had the good, Maitzi Matzah, and we went out of Mitzrayim already. So we look back and we say, oh, Rebbeinu Shalom, wow. Now we understand that the Morah was also for our best. But we can't really understand that right away. That's why we can't say Morah first, because by the time when we were suffering, by your Morah was Chayayim, we were all kvetching and complaining, quite rightfully so. We can't even look back and say, oh, I would have been better. No, we wouldn't. We would have been exactly the same. So the Chedush Rim says that we find this in the Oz Yashir as well. We'll just take a moment for this because it says Pshat in Matzah and then Morah. So it says in the Oz Yashir like this: when we left Mitzrayim, so it says Oz Yashir, Moshe, etc., etc. Then it says Omar Oyev Erdef Asig Achalik Shalom. Right? We say it every day. The enemy said, "I will chase them," and etc., etc. Now that should have been in the beginning of the Shira, before we even stepped foot into the Yam Suf. They chased us. We went into the Yam Suf, then they drowned, and we didn't, Baruch Hashem. So how come it comes in the middle of the Shira? So the Chedush Rim explains like this, exactly like what we just said in the Simani HaSeder. The Chedush Rim says that when they were chasing us, we were scared stiff. We weren't thanking Hashem for the fact that they're chasing us. On one side was the sea, it hadn't split yet. On the other side was the midbar with spiders and scorpions. You know, the Choshen Vakraven was pretty bad. The enemy was like right down, breathing down our throats, and we didn't know what's going to happen. All of a sudden, because Baruch Hashem split the sea, Moshe Rabbeinu, Oz Yashir, great. But now we look back, and when we sing the shiur, we say, wow, you know what? We're going to thank Hashem that those Egyptians were very weird. Not only did they chase us after the Esa Makis, and they knew that Hakadosh Baruch Hu could do all those things and save his people, but even more so, they took all that jewelry, they draped it on the wagons, they draped it on the chariots, they draped it on the horses, and then the next miracle was that when they washed up by the sea, that they didn't sink. This was heavy stuff. It didn't sink. It came out on the side. And what did we take? We took what was called the Bizas Hayam, the booty of the sea, the spoils of the sea. And the Gemara says in Psachim that the spoils of the sea, the Bizas Hayam, was, I think, 10 times or greater, 100 times greater than the Bizas Mitzrayim, what we got when we borrowed all that gold and silver, etc., etc. So at first we couldn't sing about Omar Oyev. It's not something to sing about. We were scared at the time. So we have to say it in the middle of the Shira, and then we say, oh, now that now we thank Hashem also for the Omar Oyev. And the same thing's over here with matzah and then Morah. We can't sing about the Morah until we eat matzah. But once we get through our heads and through our minds and through our hearts and through our souls that God Baruch Hu took us out and it was painful. Sometimes it has to be painful. The doctor does something painful to us and then it saves our lives, Baruch Hashem. Who knows what we're going through right now? So that's the matzah and the Morah. And now let's go to Kairach for a second. So Kairach is not that everybody does Kairach. Hillel, right? What do we say in the Haggadah? Kehillas, the Hillel bisman shebeis hamikdash hayakayim hayakarach matzah Morah v'achum v'yachal l'kayim ha'shem ha'matzah s'mram yachlu. So I just want to say over one little vort from the Belzer Rebbe Zatzal. The Belzer Rebbe is the old Belzer Rebbe, the Sar Shulam. Yes, it's a very simple question. The pasuk that the Megillah, I'm still on Megillah, that the Haggadah says is the wrong pasuk. Because the pasuk, we all used to this, Al Matzah Simrar Michlu. If you look it up in the good Haggadah with the footnote on the bottom, it's in Bamidbar. Where's it in Bamidbar? In Parshas Baloischa. Which is Parshas Baloischa? Pesach Sheni. Why are we saying this in the Seder of Pesach Sheni? Good kasha. Because what is the pasuk in Parshas Boy? It's a very unfamiliar pasuk. Umatzos al merorim yochlu. What's going on over here? Why do we let's call it invoke the pasuk of Pesach Sheni? So the Belzer Rebbe Zoktazoi, beautiful, very simple pshat, but it's so profound. He says that if we're at the Seder already, it's not the 14th when we bring the Korban Pesach, it's the 15th. It's too late to go bring the Korban Pesach. So if we're going to bring a Korban Pesach that year at the Seder, it's going to be already second Seder, not even the second Seder, but it's going to be Mitzvah Hashem, the second, not Nisan, but Iyar. It's going to be Pesach Sheni. So Mamela, the whole Seder, what we're thinking about is, how can we be more like the Jews that were in the Beis HaMikdash? How can we travel to the Beis HaMikdash? And Lanias Daiti, if you don't mind, I'll just share with you, this is just my little shot for what it's worth. The Targum Onkelos, we spoke about this once in Shul. The Targum Onkelos on the pasuk Va'esa eschem al kanfei neshorim, I took you on the wings of eagles, says that right before we left Mitzrayim, because Baruch Hu took us to Yerushalayim Kodesh, to the Har HaBayis, and we brought the Korban Pesach in Yerushalayim, and then we went back to Mitzrayim. Hey, we were there already. You arrived. Why don't you stay there? You got to go back to Mitzrayim. What's the pshat? So you see one very clear thing, that the whole process of Yetzias Mitzrayim was important. The bad and the good. It wasn't just about leaving. It wasn't just about like the goyim say, liberty, give me freedom. It's not about that. It's the process. We were changed. Vayisham l'goy. So that's really what we say now by Kairach. By Kairach, we said that only Hillel added this, and Kairach is Pesach, Matzah, and Morah together. Because we need the Morah, we need the Matzah, and we need the Korban Pesach. What the Korban Pesach is, I think I'll leave for next week, because I want to talk about Shulchan Aruch. So at Shulchan Aruch, the point of Shulchan Aruch is that we eat the meal. So really, l'chayra, that has really nothing to do with anything. Maybe in the olden days, they ate the Korban Pesach at that point. But at this point, we're not eating the Korban Pesach. We're not even eating the Zraya. We don't eat it maybe the second night. But even then, we don't eat the second night. We eat it the day. So why is that one of the simanim of the Seder? L'chayra, that's just a meal. And then we go on. Afterwards, we do Pesach dika things, Seder dika things. How come Shulchan Aruch is over there? So again, the Chassidish Svarim, Chassidish Haggadah say a beautiful pshat, and this is it. They say that the Seder teaches us, just like we said, that we're all the Kohen Gadol, Lifnai v'Lifnim in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and we're wearing our kittel. So we have to be on the Madrega even higher than Yom Kippur. What's higher than Yom Kippur? Yom Kippur, we're not eating. And we have to learn to eat L'Shem Shemayim. So at this point, I always say over, you'll forgive me if you heard it, the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitch Rebbe, says, by Avram and the Malachim and the Orchim in the beginning of Parashat Vayera, so it says over there that Avram Avinu served the Malachim, and it says V'oimed aleim tachas ha'etz vayechelu. He stood above them, so and they all ate. So Zog the Rebbe Rashab, a beautiful pshat. He says like this: that really the Malachim didn't eat because they're Malachim; they faked it. Avram Avinu was a good host, so he didn't just throw food at them; he sat down and ate with them. What's on a higher madrega? A person that eats like Avram Avinu or the Malachim did fake. Obviously, Avram Avinu was on a higher madrega. So what we say is as follows, that when we eat Shulchan Aruch, we took first Kaddish Ruchatz Karpas Yachaz Magid Rachza Maitzi Matzah Morah Kairach. And now we're on the madrega where we can eat L'Shem Shamayim. That's a gewaldige, beautiful, wonderful idea, that we can elevate ourselves to eat L'Shem Shamayim. And then we eat the Afikaimen, the Tzafon. Tzafon means hidden. Now, the Pashut is, of course, that we hide the Afikaimen, and then the children go and they make some money on it, and they get some prizes. Maybe that's just to keep them awake. But Tzafon, it says in the Siman of the Seder. So maybe one of the pshatim is that we're just going to mention tonight for a moment is that Tzafon is that we have a hidden component inside of ourselves, and that is that every one of us has the potential to be that Kohen Gadol. Every one of us has the potential to eat from the Korban Pesach. Every one of us has the potential, we'll say the next one, Borech or Beirach, whatever it is that we can bench and we can elevate our food to a very high madrega. And only then we can sing Hallel. And when we're going to talk about Belidana next week, we're going to talk about Barichos, the two parts of Hallel that we split up in the Seder. So we'll talk about that why, but now we're on the madrega where we can praise Hashem. The nirtza is we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to accept what we did. It's not so pashut to do something and to be mechaven to what Hashem says. That's why the Bala Seder gave us a Seder. He gave us an order. Don't just fend for yourself. Don't just do things haphazardly. Don't just stam chaplap, do things with an order. If we do it with an order like HaKadosh Baruch Hu orders his universe, everything is with a plan. Even the coronavirus has a plan. We're maybe starting to see a little bit of it. We're trying to get a glimpse, an inkling of what's happening, not only in the Jewish world, but in the entire world, from China and all the way out. So all of these simanim are the process of the Seder. And the Eibush says, Hashem, next week what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of these on a much deeper level. Hashem, hopefully, maybe we'll be able to send out some sheets, but if not, everybody will have their Haggadah, and we're going to learn through the Seder, Bais, Hashem's Baruch, through the Haggadah. The Eibush should help. We should eat from all the Karbanis and Mitzvah Hashem with the Gula Shalem of Meir B'Yameinu. Thank you very much for joining, and those that come to the Daf Yomi Mitzvah Hashem, we will be learning Be'ez Hashem every single morning at 7:15, except for Sundays, the usual at 7:45 Mitzvah Hashem. When we'll be back in shul, we don't know, but we're working on it, and maybe she should help me. It's Hashem. This thing should be over sooner rather than later. But as we said before, sometimes we can't hurry things along. Kadosh Baruch Hu has His timing, and we should be zochim with Hashem that nobody else should be a carbon chas v'shalom, and everybody should have a refuah shalema b'meir b'yameinu as well. Kol tov, kol tov. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi Feitman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all of you, for listening, for participating. Nice to have
Thank you, Rabbi.
you. Good to know. Good night. Good night. Thank you. Nice to see you. Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Night. Oh, what a beautiful picture. Wow.
Shkoyach Rav.
Bruchim to you. Bruchim to you, Manash. Thank you. Thank you for helping to arrange. Zag event. I wasn't sure who I'm talking to, so I hope it was good for everybody.
Naftali, the Rav can't see who's there?
I didn't see everybody. Naftali?
Some people had the mics, the video cameras closed.
I saw people now for the first time. I saw very few people in the beginning. So
Yeah,
I thought we have a Mazuman, but now I see that we had Baruch Hashem much more.
Yeah, I think it was even a co-ed shiur. I saw some ladies on.
Yeah. Okay, but as long as it was now we try to keep everybody separate, not just men and women.
Yeah.
Social distancing.
Yeah.
We're all learning a lesson.
Yeah. Okay. Shkoyach to the Rav.
Oh yeah, you're going to next year. Okay.
Yeah.
Be matzliach. I
Okay.
decided not to do that year because I didn't even have my own dirshu. So, but maybe Mitzvah Hashem next week we will go back to halacha also.
Be'ez
Okay.
Hashem.
Kol tov,
Okay.
hatzlacha,
Okay.
regards to all.
Shkoyach.
Kol tov, good to know. Be well.